What are we going to talk about? Oh, you leave it up to me? Anything I want? Okay. I'm going to talk about the path of hidden knowledge. Some of my friends on YouTube have asked me why I don't continue the videos about the classes on my book, The Road to Victory. So the first thing I want to tell you is that The Road to Victory, that name has been changed at my publisher's suggestion. That name has been changed to The Path of Hidden Knowledge. I will explain all about that. Also, I want you to know that this change had nothing to do with selling the book or anything like that. I don't go for that stuff. You say what you have to say that you believe in. And I ask everybody to do the same thing. That's how success comes about. Not by playing little games and changing things in books like most publishers want you to do. Because most publishers just want to make a lot of money with sensationalism. Not all of them, but the majority. I want to talk to you about the fact that I didn't continue putting on the videos about what was called Road to Victory before, because I found out as of last January that the stuff I wrote has some profundity. It's pretty heavy. I didn't realize it at the time. My idea has come to me so easily that sometimes I don't evaluate them properly. So due to the heaviness of them and the subtle nature of them, they're not good for spoken classes. So I decided to discontinue, and not too many people were watching them anyway. And now things have changed quite a bit, and I'm here to tell you about this path of hidden knowledge. And this whole thing came about because, tell you a little bit about my background. I was always a music teacher since I can remember. And I started teaching classical guitar, then I started teaching voice. I'm still a vocal coach. As a result of an injury to the right hand, I had to give up my career as a concert guitarist that I was looking forward to. And so I stayed with the voice, and then I began to find out things about the voice. First of all, singing is very easy. Doesn't even compare with classical guitar, doesn't compare with concert piano, violin, or any of those instruments. Singing is very easy. You just have to observe about a dozen rules, which are on my Magno Vocal Course number 1 on 2 DVDs, and that program is a bestseller, and it's all over the world. And I have many wonderful testimonials about people that studied from that. And that's really all you need. It is not a difficult thing. But I found a very difficult thing about singing. And that is that singing has more to do with the person behind the voice than the actual technique of singing. So I called my system the person behind the voice. Once I found that out, and since right as I was a child I was interested in self-improvement, I did a lot of research in self-improvement, then I started writing a couple of courses, Course 5 and Course 5A, which I will tell you in detail about, and I started getting phenomenal results. I had many good students with great voices, but they would never get anywhere because the person just wasn't there. And there are many singers that have no voices, But they do well. They make a lot of money, they get famous, and people enjoy them. And that's because they have something more than the voice. Now, I'll tell you an example. One of my best students, in fact the best student, is Fannie Lou, a singer from Colombia. She lives here in the United States. And she has a bestseller CD, and she's now known in 2 continents, in South America and North America. And one day, she was an actress in Colombia, and one day she decided to come see me. She came to my door, came in and said, I want to study voice. Okay, very good. I noticed right away that she was extremely magnetic. The energy was pouring out of her body. So her voice wasn't bad, but she needed some technique, so we worked on that. At the end of the first class, I told her this: if you decide to make singing your purpose in life, you will be known all over the world. Well, that came to pass, because I could see that this person was in touch with herself. She was real. And people love her because she is real. So, even singers whose voices are not that good, if you look into them, they're real. Michael Jackson, for example, didn't have particularly a good voice, but the guy was real. I studied him very closely. So she left for a year and came back a year later after course 1 with a hit CD. It was really incredible. Then she came back and studied a little bit more on some other techniques, and now she's all over the world. And she did it. I mean, I have other students that have good voices like hers, but that's not what does it. It's not the quality of the voice. Of course, you have to have a technique, you have to have a strong voice, you have to know how to breathe, you have to know how to phrase, all those things. But the important thing is the size of the heart. Like they asked Caruso, what's the secret to be a good singer? And he says, well, you got to have a good memory and a big heart. This is a true story. So, when I saw that it was basically the person, everything that I had studied about self-improvement and self-empowerment, I put into 2 courses that I wrote for that purpose. One of them, the first one, was Course 5, which is Self-Transformation Through Personal Magnetism. And the second course, I saw a need for a second course. I'll tell you why in a minute. And I called it Course 5A, called In Tune with Self Through Spiritual Science. Now, Course 5 handles the person on the physical level, on the material level. He gets you to stand on both feet and look life right in the face, and you actually will receive a transformation. Then I started working on Course 5A, In Tune with Self Through Spiritual Science, and I have a lot more to tell you about this course. So I'm going to stop here for a second, then we'll come back to Course 5A a little bit later. So, I saw this, I wrote those 2 courses, and when I was working on Course 5A, I was looking for material to use in this course, because Course 5 handles the physical. Course 5A handles the spiritual. Now when I say spiritual, this has nothing to do with religions and groups and associations and all of these cults and things. Spiritual is a word that comes from spirit, which from the Greek spiros, which means air. Without air we can't live more than a couple of minutes. No, more than a couple of minutes, but I can hold my breath for almost a couple of minutes. So, at Course 5A, I found some material that I had studied 30 years ago when I was in Los Angeles. And at that time I said, well, this stuff is fantastic. However, I can only accept 80% of it. I would not accept the other 20%. Because I couldn't accept the other 20%, I never got the promised results. Well, last January, when I was considering putting some part of this into my courses to develop the inner person, I thought so much. I thought and I thought and I thought, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. This is just this last January of 2010. I haven't been the same. That was my second transformation. And from that point, every day I have a new breakthrough. And I get intuitive flashes, all as a result of studying those secret aspects of the material in there. Now, I did not discover the material. The book, The Path of Hidden Knowledge, is in 3 parts. I started off with 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Then I added the part 3, which are the 12 keys, which are secrets. And I want to tell you this in advance. If you have this book, do not, and I repeat, do not read the 3rd part unless the first step is totally comprehended and accepted. You have to use your intelligence and reason and your thinking and your honesty with self to comprehend the very first key, secret key, and if you comprehend it, then you can accept it. But do not accept it if you don't accept it. You have to accept it. And then if you gradually go through all the 12 keys, once you get to the 12th key, if you accept that, it's hard to accept. If you accept that, you will be transformed. You will have a spiritual transformation. I say this to you without any doubt whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I don't understand how Webster Edgerly, the discoverer of these 12 keys, he is the guy that wrote all the magnetism stuff, which I have revised and expanded, and I distribute that all over the world also. I can't understand, that was his last work, I believe in 1923, just before he died. And I'm dumbfounded that nobody, at least I don't know of anybody, that saw the value of these things. And I didn't either the first time I studied them. Here we have, you need to use your intelligence and your reason. This has nothing to do with faith and myths and praying and all of these things that people are into from the past 2,000 years. I'm not putting people down for that, but the great avatars who taught them about spirituality used little stories, like you tell a child a little story so that the child can comprehend. So they told the populace all of these little stories, which have been printed, and everybody believes it from 2,000 years ago. Nobody actually stops to think and say, who am I? Where did I come from? What is the purpose of life? What is my personal purpose? What am I doing here? Where am I going? All of these questions are in what I call the square deal, which is in my book, The Path of Hidden Knowledge. So, this has nothing to do with faith. You're going to use your mind. You're going to think. Use your intelligence and reason to decipher this thing. Like Rudolf Steiner says, you achieve spirituality by using your mind, not believing things. So, you learn that intelligence and reason cannot be depended on 100%. Once you see that, comprehend it, accept it, then you will be using intelligence or reason, but you will be spiked with a new mind. And that's where you get your breakthroughs, your happiness, your inner peace, mostly inner peace. Now, let me tell you this. Life is a process of evolution, as you probably already know. And we don't know exactly these things, and I can't prove it to you, but see, this is the beauty of spiritual science. Real science and regular science, they learn things and to prove it to others. But it's all a materialistic trip. Science actually has given us more destruction than construction, although they have given us some good things. Well, we've gone to the moon. So what? The planet is falling apart. United States is falling apart. Not completely. And I'm not saying this out of a negative belief. This is a necessary negativity. This is a necessary thing that we're going through in the world, because we are now devolving. It's a devolution towards a greater evolution. You see that in all of nature. There is living, and then there is dying. And before something can live again, it must die. So, the world is going through a devolution towards a greater evolution. Now let's go back to the beginning of the planet. First we had what I call basic consciousness. Well, let's take a step back of basic consciousness. Planet is made, we don't need to go into that, it's made of rocks, and they're the four principal manifestations of the physical universe, which are water, air, fire, and earth. So we have the planet made of earth and rocks, and there's no consciousness in rocks, but there is an energy, probably atomic energy. Well, not probably, there is. I actually believe that rocks are can't think of the word right now. It's a crystallization of thought, but that's another story. Now, so we have the mineral kingdom, which has a certain amount of energy. Then we have what I call basic consciousness, which is the vegetable kingdom. Out of the water, these little things started growing, little plants, and then they became big plants, and then they became trees. We have this vegetable kingdom, which has consciousness. Now listen to this. I'm not saying that they have self-consciousness, I'm saying they have consciousness. Now, wherever there is consciousness, there is life. Where there is life, there is consciousness. And plants most certainly do have life. And they don't think, but they react. You know how I know? I did an experiment. I was with a few friends, and we connected a certain meter to a plant growing out of a pot. Beautiful plant. And they're all standing around looking at the indicator in the machine, in the meter, but I decided to do something different. I began sending, deliberately, I asked permission of the plant, I started sending very inharmonious thoughts, very destructive thoughts to the plant. Well, that needle went crazy. The plant actually responded to my thinking. Of course, they didn't know that I was doing that.